Hi everyone, and welcome to another review from Class 47 Peter. And in today's review we're going to be having a look at a Bachmann model, as it's been a while since I've had a model made by Bachmann. And I'm not going to beat about the bush because you already know what this model is. It is a 9F, but this one is a model of 92220 Evening Star. Now, I have previously had a model of the Evening Star before in the past, which I have done a review of before, which I did some years ago. That model was of the Hornby RailRoad model, which when I bought my Bachmann 9F, the other one, in the BR Black, numbered 92116, I sold the Hornby RailRoad model off. But I have been after a Bachmann Evening Star for a long time now. They are due to bring it out again at some point this year for, I believe the recommended retail price is £140. But I got this model off eBay, brand new, pretty much mint in its box, for £119 as I buy it now. And so I decided to grab it. And it's just arrived in the post, because I have been wanting to get hold of a Bachmann Evening Star for a long time now, and it's taken a while to get one, but now I finally got one. And I think I got my hands on a good bargain here, because I have seen these models go for more than £120, or £119 for that matter. And like I say, Bachmann are due to bring this out again for £140. But anyway, let's get this model open and see what she's like. So this is the old Bachmann packaging, the polystyrene tray. And there's the model in the box, wrapped in those foam sheets. So there's the empty box, we'll put to one side. It's got heritage reins in association with NRM on there, as you can see. And it's DCC ready as well. Then this is the card insert for the model. With a photograph of a 9F. It's not of Evening Star, but it's of a 9F. And on the back with a drawing of the locomotive and some brief history, which you can pause and read that if you want. I'm not going to stop you. So then we come on to all the rest of the stuff. First of all, we have these. Some etched nameplates. And some plaques as well, which I shall be putting those on. So just put those to one side. Then we have this, which is quality control. And this has come from Hereford Model Centre. I mean, I got it off eBay, but it must have been Hereford Model Centre's eBay account, by the looks of this. So I've just put that to one side. Then we have the guarantee. I'll keep that, just in case. Then this is the exploded diagram of the locomotive. So all these parts, as you can see, the majority of them are numbered. So the idea is that if you lose a part or one gets damaged, you can just simply get in touch with Bachmann and order that replacement part, basically. It also tells you about removing the body and fitting a DCC decoder if you want to do that. So I'll put those to one side and I'll put them in my folder later on. I'm going to keep all my instructions. And then we come on to the detail pack. Which I can't get out, so I'm going to have to crudely use a pair of tweezers for this. I couldn't quite get my fingers inside there. There we are. So we'll look at the detail pack first before we move on. So in the accessory bag we have a couple of footsteps, 2 vacuum pipes, a couple of drain cocks for the cylinders, and a screw link coupling. So the detail part's now looked at, we can now unbox the model. So we'll take the tender out first. And we'll throw the foam sheet away, because I'm not going to really need it now. And then we'll remove the locomotive from its box. And then we'll carefully unwrap it, like so, and there she is, in all her glory. So the packaging now moved to one side and the model unboxed, we can now have a look at the model itself. So we'll look at the loco first, and we'll have a look at the tender later. Okay, now normally at this point I would talk about the weight of the model and talk about how heavy the model is, but I've just noticed something. That buffer head there appears to be bent, so I'm going to have to sort that out. Right, well, that buffer has been fixed now. It was only a small problem really, but what I had to do was, now here's the buffer. Now you can see that if you just turn it upside down, you can see that it's got bent over, as you can see. Now I tried straightening it out using these pliers, but that wasn't working. I just simply couldn't grip onto it. But then I remembered I had some spares. I had some of these spare buffers in my spares box. I wasn't sure if it was going to be the right size, but thankfully they was. So all I did was I just simply pulled this buffer out, which is easy to do, and I just simply glued that replacement buffer in, and it still sprung. What I recommend doing, if you ever have this problem and you want to put a new buffer in, to keep them sprung, all you have to do is, see that little bit there on the buffer where I'm pointing my fingernail to, basically where my fingernail is. What you do is just simply put a blob of glue around here, around this part of the buffer. You just simply push the buffer into place and job's a good one, and it still works. So you still get your sprung buffer. I think I'm probably going to throw this one away, to be honest. Unless I can perhaps find a way to straighten this out. But I've managed to fix that problem anyway, so you know, it's now looking a bit better, I think. And the problem's been sorted as well, so it's fine now. Right, so with that little problem now sorted, we can now talk about the model itself. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the weight. This model is very, very heavy, so there's going to be no problems here with these 9Fs pulling a long rake of wagons, because these Bachmann 9F models are quite powerful. I've had my other 9F going around the layout pulling a rake of 45 wagons. And I'm sure I've seen video clips somewhere of these models hauling something like, what, 50 odd wagons. So these Bachmann 9Fs really are quite powerful models, so they need all the weight they can get. And also, because of all that weight, and given how powerful these models are, there's no traction tyres, because nowadays we don't really need them. All the weight simply does all the traction for us. Now we come on to the detail, which we have sprung buffers. So if you like your sprung buffers, they'll keep you happy. I don't have much care for them personally, but they're there. But they are made out of metal though. given the fact that this one got bent and so I had to replace it. But they are made out of metal though, which is nice, even though it does mean that they can be easily to bend, so that's just something to point out there, so do be careful. On the buffer beam we have a lot of rivet detail, which you can just about see, as well as the dummy coupling hook and some holes for the detail to go into, the vacuum pipes. We have an M tension lock coupling, as well as some guard irons there, just the front of the pony truck there, as you can see. We have some separately fitted lamp irons on the running board. On the neck holders we have a builder's plate. Out of focus there, but it says built 1968 Swindon, which is where this loco was built, and it was the last of its kind to be built, because this loco was built when these locos were being withdrawn. Just look at these parts behind the smoke deflectors there, how they attach onto the smoke box there. Considering that that's been replicated so well in model form, that just looks superb. Moving on to the smoke box door, which we have a separately fitted lamp iron and a small separately fitted metal handrail. The loco's running number 92220, crisply printed on the smoke box door number plate there, and we of course have separately fitted smoke box door darts, as you can see. We also have a shed code which says 82F, which was the shed code for, originally it was for Bath on the Somerset and Dorset, and it later became the shed code for Weymouth. There's a lot of rivet detail on the smoke box. We have a very nice double chimney, and this one has a copper cap, very much like the real Evening Star does. Moving on to the smoke deflectors, which do have some nice rivet detail on them, and some separately fitted metal handrails, as you can see. We also have the plaque there underneath the nameplates, which both the plaque and the nameplates are crisply printed. One thing I have noticed though with the plaque, looking at the etched ones here, the plaques don't seem to have any writing on them at all. Well, it's there, but it's just not been painted. But it is there on the printed ones. So I don't know what happened there. I think, to be honest, I'll just be using the etched nameplates and not the plaques, and just keep the printed plaques, I think. On the frames of the chassis we do have some nice rivet detail. There's some nice rivet detail on the cylinders and some lovely lining as well. We also of course have the brake blocks and some sanding gear, as you can see. Separately fitted, the sanding gear is as well. And just look at all the link motion there. The valve gear, the link motion itself for side rods. I just can't wait to see all that moving, just like on the real thing. And just like on the real 9Fs, just under the running plate there, in between the chassis, you have some daylight there. We have some very nice crisp lining on the running plate. Lots of rivet detail on the running board. We have a very nice dome with some rivet detail, as well as the safety valves with again more rivet detail around those. And we have the whistle, which has been separately fitted. Doesn't look to be made out of brass though, it looks to be made out of plastic and then painted, I think. But we do have lots of pipe work as well, as you can see. We have glazing in the cab windows, and on the front cab windows the window rims have been painted brass, or a colour that's supposed to be brass, and that looks nice. Down the side of the boiler we have a separately fitted handrail made of metal, as you can see. The detail on the boiler bands is just exquisite. Just look at the lining on those. We of course have some separately fitted pipe work on the model, including this, which has been painted, which looks very nice. We have some pipe work running on the smoke box here and down to the boiler, which are the steam pipes of course. And just look at all the pipe work here, how it comes into that bit of detail there. And the rivets on the smoke box as well, it's fantastic. It really is. Moving on to the cab roof, we have some roof vents which don't open, but there's some nice rivet detail on the roof vents though. On the sides of the cab we have some more rivet detail, some lovely lining and the loco's running number 92220, crisply printed on the sides. We have the drawbar connector that connects the loco up to the tender. On the back of the cab you have the rear windows there with glazing in them, well, a rear window I should say rather, with some glazing in there which looks nice, as well as some separately fitted handrails on the back of the cab. There's some nice detail on the footplate and on the cab floor, just look at that. That looks stunning. And then we have the detail in the cab interior, which not much of it has been painted. The only thing that has been painted are the dials. Everything else has been left unpainted. Moving on to the other side of the loco, there is some detail differences. On running board there we have the sanders. I used to think they were washout plugs, but no, they are sanders, which is basically where they keep the sand, basically. There's a lot less pipework on this side of the loco, as you can see. There is some pipework though on the smoke box, but it's different to that on the other side. There's not as much, which is just like the real loco, because it did have these detailed differences on both sides, which it's nice to see. It is nice to see these detailed differences being covered on the model. And on this side of the loco, just under the running plate, just behind the rear drive wheel there and under the cab, you have some pipework, which looks nice and separately fitted as well. Now we move on to the tender, which there's a little bit of weight in here, not a massive amount, because then again the loco has to be more heavier, because don't forget it's going to have this tender in tow and a train behind it. But there is a little bit of weight in the tender. On the tender buffer beam we have some rivets and some tender buffers. On the faceplate we have coal in the chute and these little handles there, or handbrakes I suppose you'd call them, but these basically transfer the water from the tender to the boiler. And these storage cabinets as well to keep various things in. We also have the rear windows on the tender as well, although alas there's no glazing in them. Under the tender we have that lug for the drawbar connector to go into. Now there's two holes in the drawbar connector, so you can either have the tender coupled close to the loco or have a gap in between the loco and the tender, whichever you choose to have. You'll also notice there's a pre-fitted brake rod as well on the tender. On the side of the tender we have some separately fitted metal handrails. On the tender frames we have some footsteps, lots of rivet detail, as well as the axle boxes and the springs, and the axle boxes have been painted yellow, which looks nice. On the tender sides we've got loads of rivets, as you can see there. We also have crisp lining and the BR Lake crest, crisply printed, and it looks fantastic. There's also some nice rivet detail on the top of the tender there as well. Now inside the tender there's no coal load, but that doesn't matter anyway, because I'm going to get some real coal put in this. Although with the majority of the models they did put a coal load in the models, but then in some of them they left it out. Don't know why that was the case, but I'm going to put some real stuff inside here anyway, so it's not too much of a problem. On top of the tender we have some separately fitted metal handrails. We also have the water filler caps there, which don't open, but then we don't really expect them to, and it'll probably make the model more expensive as well, but they're there and they look nice. On the back of the tender we have a NEM tension lock coupling, rivets on the buffer beam and a dummy coupling hook, and just like on the loco we have sprung buffers on the tender. On the back of the tender we have some separately fitted lamp irons and some separately fitted handrails. Lots of rivets again and a ladder on the back, as you can see, and that's separately fitted too. And we also have a plaque telling you how much water this can hold. This is a 5,000 gallon tender, as you can see there. And on the other side of the tender the detail is exactly the same as on the other side. Now something I haven't talked about yet is the livery. The livery application is superb. It's a very nice even coat of paint and the correct shade of green as well, and very nice and evenly applied. And the lining really does make the livery stand out as well. It's a beautiful shade of green as well. I do really like the BR Brunswick green livery. There's something about it. We now come on to the running performance, and straight out of the box she's a smooth runner. Doesn't she look magnificent and elegant to see on the layout? There's no motors burning out, stuttering movements or anything of the sort. It's running exactly as it should, straight from the box. Moving on to the loaded test run now, and we have Evening Star pulling the maroon stock around the layout, and doesn't she look majestic with those maroon coaches? Well, she does without them anyway, but she looks a fine sight with the maroon coaches, and they go really well with her in the BR lime green livery. Now there's 7 coaches behind the loco, and this just shows why the weight of the models is important. So overall then, the Bachmann 9F Evening Star is a stunning model. Overglossing that one problem I had with that buffer being bent. Considering I've been wanting a model of Evening Star for a long time now, I've finally got one and I'm glad I've got one now. And if you're looking for a model of Evening Star, I'd highly recommend that you get this model. So overall then, I'm going to rate the Bachmann 9F Evening Star. I could give her a 9 out of 10, simply because of what happened with the buffer, but I'm going to let this model off for that, and so I'm going to give this model a 10 out of 10. But in all fairness, we shouldn't really find the buffers being bent and having to replace them, if I'm honest, but I'm going to let this model off for that, because it is too much of a stunning model to simply rate it down for that small thing. So this has been Class 47P, so reviewing the Bachmann 9F Evening Star, and I'll see you again soon for the next review. Not going to say what it's going to be yet, because I don't know myself, but until then, subscribe to the channel, check out my other videos, and I'll see you again next time. Look after yourselves.